started, a couple quick housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please feel free to submit them via the chat function. I will share those with our presenters as they come up, and we'll allow some Q&A afterwards as well. This webinar is also being recorded, so if you have any technical issues, if you have to step away, if you would like to replay, or if you'd like to share the information with your colleagues, I will forward the link to the registrants as soon as the presentation is uploaded. Now, I will read our presenter bios, and then we'll hand off the microphone, so to speak. So Dr. Russell Lowery-Hart is president of Amarillo College and has been president since 2014. He previously served as Amarillo College's vice president of academic affairs, and he's a product of Slaton, Texas. Dr. Lowery-Hart served for 12 years at West Texas A&M as assistant professor of speech communication, director of forensics, executive director of first year experience, associate vice president for academic affairs, and associate provost. Under his leadership, Amarillo College was awarded the Leah Meyer Austin Award for Achieving the Dream and is currently a finalist for the Aspen Prize for Community College Excellence. Mr. Johnny Mize is currently the chair of Board of Regents for Amarillo College. He was elected to serve on the board in 2013. Mr. Johnny Mize is a director of First Bank Southwest and has 25 years of experience working and consulting with executives of Fortune 500 corporations, insurance companies, third-party claim administrators, insurance brokers, and government entities. Mr. Mize holds a Bachelor's of Business Administration degree in finance from Texas Tech and has taught an entrepreneurship class at Amarillo College. And so again, we are excited to have these two institutional leaders join us for this excellent conversation. And please, if you have questions, bring them up and I will forward them on to them as the presentation goes. But without further ado, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you both so much for including us. We're honored to share the Amarillo College story, not just because we're on the back end of seeing its success realized, but because it was a difficult journey. And I think oftentimes we forget that you have to make really tough decisions through the process. And we're going to share our process with you that's led to some of the successes on the back end. And we wouldn't be here without the profound leadership of our Board of Regents, in particular our board chair, Johnny Mize. So thank you for being here today and for your partnership. And Manny, I have to say, if you are on Zoom a lot like we all are, you get your room rated. I'm rating your room a 10. I love your kids' artwork in the background. That's awesome. We hope that you will ask us questions as we go through, and Dr. Gonzalez is going to infuse those questions throughout our presentation. Our Reformation story really started with turning your keyboard on. And it really started with asking the question, why? Why are our students failing? And I'll be honest with you, we first started answering that question like higher ed professionals who've only worked in this industry our whole career. We started answering the question with, well, the high schools aren't preparing them, the students aren't serious, they're privileging work over our class, they don't know how to study. We started blaming students for the failure rather than really understanding what was causing it. And central to this story is a deep commitment to a concept called No Excuses University, created by Damon Lopez out of San Diego, who now lives in Fort Worth. And fundamentally, the no excuses philosophy is this: as educators, our communities can no longer afford economically or socially for students to fail. So we as the educators have to take responsibility for failure. And so when we adopted that philosophy, instead of assuming why students failed and blaming other people for it, we started asking students the question, why are you failing? And we were shocked by their answer, because what we kept hearing over and over and over is the main reason students were failing was because of us. Our bureaucracies, our language, our processes, but fundamentally they were failing because they didn't think we cared.
He's faster than a speeding stroller, more adorable than a wet kitten, and able to get a stranger's attention with a single courtesy.
Excuse me?
This is America's latest superhero.
Don't forget to show love.
And the only superhero with the power to feed the homeless.
Now, why do you do that?
You know what, Mrs. Baker? That's the right thing to do.
Is it?
Yes.
You want honey?
By day, Austin P. Rhyme is a mild-mannered 4-year-old from Birmingham, Alabama. But about once a week, he turns into this alter ego,
Would you like a sandwich?
a superhero set on feeding as many homeless people as possible.
Thank you. What's your superhero name?
President Austin.
President Austin.
President Austin.
President Austin. That's his idea of what the president is supposed to do. I was like, buddy, you have no idea. But hey, I'm going along with it.
TJ says this all began when they were watching a TV show about pandas. It showed a mama panda abandoning a baby. TJ told his son the cub was now homeless.
He said, so what's homeless? I said, well, it's when you don't have a home and sometimes you don't have mom or dad around.
And he told what the follow-up question is going to be.
Yeah, or people homeless. When I was a 4-year-old, I didn't care about helping people.
I did.
I see.
Once Austin learned some people are homeless and some are even hungry, he launched this Caped Crusade. Told his mom and dad that he wanted all his allowance and money they would spend on toys
Here you go.
to go toward chicken sandwiches instead.
Oh, thank you, baby.
You're welcome. Don't forget to show love.
After he gives out each sandwich,
Yes.
he gives each person that same bit of advice.
Don't forget to show love.
Don't forget to show love, he tells them. And most do, immediately.
Well, thank you. That warms my heart to see you.
He don't warm anyone's heart. Yeah, he really did.
Raymond Boss says this kid gives him hope.
That's where it started.
Don't forget to show love.
Everyone who meets Austin leaves with hope. Which is why, with any luck, someday President Austin won't be a superhero anymore.
Being the homeless is the highlight of my life.
He'll just be a president.
All right, come on, Austin.
Steve Hartman on the road in Birmingham, Alabama.
We could all use a little more President Austins in our lives. And I think he's an example for all of us, but what we learned from our students and asking them to tell us what the perfect college looked and felt like to them, it is that it wasn't a college that was filled with all the things that we all have and are important. I'm not denigrating them. It's that foundational to our students' success is that they have to see us as a partner in their success and that we care deeply about whether they're successful or not, and that they feel that we love them as much as they need. Systemically, intentionally, thoughtfully caring for our students. And it's why we talk dramatically about loving the student we have, not the student we used to have or the student we wished we had, but committing to the students that walk on our campus every day, because they're different now than they were 20, 30, 40 years ago, but our colleges are still set up on policies, bureaucracies, and programming that was designed for the students we were when we were in college, not designed for the students that actually need us today. Our students need us differently now. Our communities need us to be aggressive leaders in diversifying our economies. And when you look at what's happening to us in COVID across the state and the country, COVID is going to demand that we serve our students and our community differently now than we have before. I know a lot of people are like, where is Amarillo? It's in Texas with the rest of you all. I remember when you remember when you used to have the big paper maps, and when you took a trip, you would buy the big atlas and you would map out. The Texas Panhandle was always cut off and put on the back side of Texas's map because it was so big. We have a little chip on our shoulder that most people don't know where we are. But I think the reason that you're with us today is while we may be in the middle of nowhere, what we're experiencing in Amarillo mirrors what's happening in the rest of the country. Amarillo has more refugees per capita than any city in the country. We are struggling with issues of generational poverty, of the real challenges associated with justice and racial representation. What's happening in Amarillo is happening in your community. And I hope by the end of our story, you can have hope that by simply changing foundational philosophies and the way that you lead your institutions, you can do some powerful things as well. And the story that we're going to share with you is working. When we started our Reformation, we were in the high teens for completion rates. Now we're at 53%. We think when our transfer numbers come in at the end of November, that we could be at 58%, and our goal is to be at 70% completion in 3 years. That has happened in a 5-year period. Transforming bureaucracies does not take a 10, 15, 20-year commitment. It just takes some bold leadership and some really incredible partnership between your regents and your college leadership. Everything we've built and every program that we've implemented or reframed or glued together is for Maria. This is our typical student, and I'm really excited for you to meet her. She's first generation. She's part-time. Because we have accelerated learning, when we first started our story, over 80% of our Marias were part-time. Now, 54% of them are part-time, and we hope that we can get that to 50% full-time. She's a Hispanic female with big financial needs. She typically wants to transfer. She's 25 years of age. But there are 2 items that aren't on the list. She is working. This is the typical student at Amarillo College, the average student, not the non-traditional student. This is the dominant student that engages with our college, is working 2 part-time jobs and raising 1.2 kids while she engages with our learning. Yet so often our programming, whether it's student life or advising or classroom instruction or classroom instructional availability and times and schedules, are set up for a typical 18-year-old who just left high school. It does not have the pressures of raising a family or the financial pressures of providing for them. Johnny, tell us, when you first met Maria, what was your initial reaction to knowing who our typical student was versus who we thought she was?
Well, I would say that we were surprised. You know, as you really look at, I think everybody goes into every situation with preconceived ideas and assumptions, and I think it challenged us to really begin to ask questions, because all of us are, you know, we are only, you know, the product of our experiences. And my experience with college was 40 years ago, and it was in a environment at Texas Tech, which was is a great institution. But basically, when I went to school there, whether I showed up or not didn't really matter. And our professors really, you know, I could say I don't know that they really cared. It was up to me to get my education. And I think this was an eye-opener for me to realize this isn't just an outlier. This is who we are serving. And then it will lead to a lot more questions that we began to discover, as we'll share with you in a few minutes.
When you said something I think is really important, like when we were both in school, our professors, we didn't know if they even knew our name or cared about us. But part of that is because we had experiences that prepared us for that independence. We had families that supported us and understood it. But for a lot of our Marias that have grown up in generational poverty and are first generation college students, they have a lot of things that are working against their success in college. And we can't leave it to chance of whether she finds the right person to love her through our systems. We have to be thoughtful about connecting her in every way possible, because her failure is a community failure now, not just an individual one. And so Maria drives our conversations. She drives our planning. She drives our budgeting. She drives everything at the college. And I'm really proud of her because she's smart. She's ambitious, she's capable, she just needs us differently. But if you look at the traditions of higher education, we have typically assigned meanings to some of the behaviors that we see from Maria is lack of interest and lack of ability, when it was really our lack of understanding. And I want you to meet one of our Marias. She's really amazing.
One of my biggest goals in life is to make my parents and my family proud of me. And education is what they think will get me to anything. They want me to be successful, and education is always key. So being the first generation, you know, I'm the first generation to go to college. It's an honor, and it's a lot of pressure also, but it's really worth it. I can't think of anything else that would make me feel more proud because my parents are proud. My parents are immigrants from Vietnam. They came here back in, I think, 1990. They went to Houston. My parents moved to Amarillo because of a job opportunity. I want to say they did a really good job of raising me and my brothers. Our goal right now is just to finish college. Just make them proud. They don't want us to have the same struggles that they went through. You know, they worked really, really hard, and we're a middle-class family, just your ordinary family. They didn't have that opportunity. I think my dad, he didn't finish middle school. My mom, I think she finished her 9th grade year in high school in Vietnam. And that's something that they don't really talk much because they're embarrassed about. But they want to let me know that that's not what they see for my future. They want the complete opposite. I know for sure, especially at Amarillo College, everyone's here to help no matter what. And I feel like as long as first-year generation students are scared to step out and ask for that help, then that would be a tremendous step into their career, into their college education, you know. And I think as a community, we just need to know that even as a first-year generation student, we need that little help, we need that little push, and that's what's gonna make a difference. That's gonna make a difference between applying to college and walking that stage and getting a degree. My dad is not a big show of his, you know, affection, and I told him, I'm graduating college, you know, and I think he shed a tear the first time ever, and I'm sorry. Everything, didn't have a calculator, all the struggles I went through, that just went to my whole body. I saw him smile, and I made him proud, and that means everything to me.
The reason I wanted you to meet Linda is she represents the majority of our Marias, and I think the majority of your students as well. The thing that she said that struck me the most is she said, we're just your typical middle-class family, your ordinary family. And this is the transition we have to make in leadership of higher education institutions in today's environment, is that she's right. A family with not even a high school diploma, working really difficult manual labor at a meatpacking plant so that their students can go to school and get a degree that will change the pathway for their life. She is the typical middle-class ordinary family, and we had to acknowledge that we weren't set up for her. And once we got clear who she was and what she needed from us, then magic started to happen. And the magic started with a real deep commitment that we were gonna love the students we have. And we talk openly about love. It's not a word that's used in higher education vernacular, but it's one that we use because it points to how personal this work is. It is relational work that is supported with intentional systems and structures that ensure that Maria moves through our college successfully. And so for us, the beginning of loving the students we have is actually listening to them. We ask our students to tell us what was keeping them from being successful in the classroom, and what did the perfect college look like for them. And their answers to those two questions have fundamentally changed me personally, not just professionally, and has rebuilt this college in profound ways. One of the things that we learned when we listened to our students is, and I asked the question myself when I did focus groups, is to tell me what was keeping you from being successful in the classroom. And I'm gonna acknowledge I went into that as a recovering faculty member and an academic at heart who went in looking for academic responses. But the reason our students' responses changed to I am personally and professionally is that the top 10 things they identified that were keeping them from being successful in the classroom had nothing to do with the classroom. Childcare, healthcare, housing, food, transportation, utility services, legal services. We've added a legal clinic because for a lot of our students that have grown up in generational poverty, it costs a lot to be poor in our communities, and we penalize poverty, and we have to help students navigate that in ways that I would help my own children navigate. We did a survey with Sarah Goldrick-Robb out of the Hope Center at Temple University. And it's a survey that you probably have access to as well. And if you haven't used this survey, I can almost guarantee you have Trellis survey data that can tell you about the financial health of your students. Find it, ask about it, and access it. You're gonna learn more about your students from these 2 survey results than just about anything else you'll see. What we learned from our students, and we have 10,000 students, is that 59% of our students were housing insecure and 54% were food insecure. And that 11% of our 10,000 students had experienced homelessness over the course of a year. We did this survey 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, and I can tell you the survey results we just got back this year has shown the systems that we put in place are working. We've reduced our food insecurity to 46% when the rest of the country has only seen food insecurity implode. We've reduced our housing insecurity, but we have not reduced our homelessness quite yet. This is what our system of eradicating poverty looks like. And the reason I wanted you to see this slide is that you probably have all of these things already. Probably have a food pantry, you have a foundation, you have emergency aid, you have resources in your community that are designed to help people living in the war zone of poverty. You have resources in your college like tutoring and advising and mentoring that help your college. You probably have mental health counseling and a career counseling center. You have all the things you need. What we learned at Amarillo College, though, is that these things weren't glued together thoughtfully, intentionally, and purposefully to leverage all of these services to move Maria through our college and into the workforce. So I don't think what we're talking about is getting you to add things. I think what we've learned at Amarillo College is getting you to identify what you already have that's working, but how can you glue it together with your technology, your employee training and evaluation, your hiring processes, so that students are wrapped in these services intentionally where they're talking with each other almost in a case management style. The biggest impact that asking our students and listening to them was we asked them to tell us what the perfect college looked like. And we were brave enough, Johnny, I think, to even allow our students to write the values for the college. We're not recommending you do that. A little crazy, a little nuts, because the words that our students identified didn't reflect the bureaucracy of higher education or the traditions of higher education. Our values now that are written in every job description, a part of every hiring process, and are a part of our training and our merit-based system don't include words like global education and critical thinking and problem solving. Those are really important things. But fundamentally, those are the purposes of higher education that we all share. Our values are what are unique about how we fulfill that purpose. So we ask our students to tell us what the perfect college looked like and to write the values that reflected that, and this is what they came up with. Before we dissect them, I just want you to hear from Johnny when we first brought these values to him, what your reaction to these values were.
Well, and Russell, if you would you go back to the No Excuses 2020? And
yeah.
I want to address these. Really, to me, are collectively, these 2 slides really define the meat of what we're really getting at. And what I want to share with you is, as you look at this No Excuses chart that shows really all of these different services and really all things that are outside of what we traditionally have thought about in education. And from my perspective, my initial reaction to this was, that's not our job.
Yeah.
We're here to educate. We're here to teach. And so I thought, those students, they can get those services somewhere else because those are available throughout our community. But I will tell you, through our asking questions of our students and the surveying, they weren't accessing them. And so I was wrong in saying they can get those somewhere else. And so we made them convenient for them. We put them here on campus in many cases. And we really studied the data about, what is causing all of the problems that people are not completing, our students are not completing. And so as you get to, from a business perspective, you're really trying to understand what is the root cause.
Yeah.
And that's really what our team went just all in, trying to figure out what is the root cause of what are the barriers that are preventing our students from completing. And they identified those, and these are some of those barriers, and we continue to work on them and to really fine tune them so that we are meeting all of our students' needs. And we're breaking down the barriers, and we're seeing this has been transformational, and you can see that in our results. And so I would just say, to my original reaction was, that's not our job. This is our job. And so I'll move on, if you will, into the values. And whenever these were first presented to our board, we were aware that Russell and his leadership, they were trying to study, and we looked outside the college and not in our, throughout the business community for, values and what was driving at other entities like Zappos and so forth. And, when I first saw these, I thought, that's a little bit cheesy maybe. And
that was my reaction too, Johnny. I was worried.
And I thought, that all may look good, but I will tell you that, from my perspective, you can put words on a sheet, and in my business experience, I was as mentioned earlier, I was a president and CEO of a local company here that had upwards of 700 employees. And, sort of a inside, I think, business culture is, every year we would go through and we'd have consultants come in, and they would help us develop a new mission statement and, maybe redefine our purpose, our mission, and our values. But it many times our employee base became cynical, and they really didn't believe because they were just words on a page. Mm-hmm. And these words, as I initially reacted to them, I wasn't really sure that how could that fit in an educational environment. I can see a little bit how that might fit in a maybe a let's say a Zappos or some other selling shoes, but I don't know about education. But as I began to listen to Russell and his leadership team and what they were doing and how they were living these values, that to me is the meat about how do you really make a difference and create this culture. Culture is tremendously difficult to change within an organization. And I think the purposeful and intentional use of these and creation of these values, not just as words on a page, but then how you implemented them and lived by them, is really what created the culture that really is about caring. It is about love. And to me, it sort of goes to it's about the heart. It's about identifying, what are we here for? We are really here. Our purpose is really to help our students complete so that they can begin to earn a livable wage. And we were finding that we were not doing a great job with that, and we were willing to be innovative, and these are innovative. And some of the ideas that have come up with, that have been brought forth, I guess I'm cynical, and I'm sort of the critic in a lot of cases, and I would, wonder, I don't know about that. But we are willing to take chances and try to do different things. And that's what I would say is so exciting, because we take chances, we say yes instead of no, and we have fun while we're doing it. And it really does create some really great opportunities. And so, as I look at our results and look at how we've done in the way of completion rate improvement, I am so excited about what we're doing. And these values are not just words on paper. We are living those. And listen, realistically, not everybody throughout the college, when they first saw these, were willing to accept them either.
No, I would say the majority were really skeptical.
And I think it takes the leadership and Russell's leadership, as well as his cabinet, to really live by these values, to really begin to change the culture. Because culture is, as I've already said, is a very difficult thing to change within any organization. And I've watched it change, and it's exciting to see happen. But I think it is so important for us to realize that it only happens with intentionality. And but we really do care about our students, and it comes through, just as Linda mentioned earlier, that, and you'll see even as we move through the rest of this, but our students really, they see that we care, and I think that's really what is making a difference.
It makes a huge difference, and I think what helped our colleagues within the college accept these values is because they knew students identified them. And this was the students telling us what their perfect college looked like. And frankly, we were losing enrollment and we were not successful. And our students were telling us, you want to be successful, you want us to come here and to stay here, give us some support, help us feel a part of something rather than judged by your bureaucracy, that our bureaucracy was assigned for them. So fundamentally, here's what they said they wanted from us. They wanted to go, wow, they really do care at the end of any interaction with an AC employee. They wanted to know that we saw who they were and the challenges they brought, and we were going to be innovative in responding to it. I heard from students a lot how fearful they were to come on our college campuses. They didn't know what a registrar was, or what a bursar was, or what a provost was. They didn't know where buildings were. They didn't understand the vernacular. And so we had created fear through our bureaucracy, and they just wanted to know that being in college could be fun. So one of the things we have is a bring your dog to work day. Please don't do that, and don't encourage your leadership teams to do that, because I picked up a lot of poop. But it was a fun way to help students see us as people, not the idolized experts that they think we are. We had to include their families in the process. So families are a part of our orientation. We don't just have a family orientation. They're a part of it and a partner in helping us love students to success. And Johnny referenced what I think is the most important value. It's the value of yes. Our students moved me to tears just explaining how their lives have been defined by the word no. No at home, no in their community, no at school, no at work. Their worldview had been framed by what they couldn't do, and they just wanted a college that would help them get to a yes. These values and a culture of caring have only been magnified in a COVID environment. And the barriers that our students face have expanded because of COVID. When we went into remote learning and remote work, we kept the building open to serve our students. And I was shocked by the number of people that came in with designer bags, driving luxury cars, that needed access to a food pantry or a social worker. You can't assume that you understand who's been affected by COVID. It's affecting more students than we even imagine. This is fundamentally the theory of change that's driven our reformation. That if we can systemically remove a life barrier in an accelerated learning environment, which is wrapped in 8-week classes and no developmental education, through a deep culture of caring where Maria feels seen, heard, loved, and supported, then our students will complete.
If you don't know, as a freshman, let's say, let's take an example by first generation, you don't know, please ask questions, okay? That was one of the things that I was like, this person that I'm talking to, they might not be my teacher. Like, for example, that general that I mentioned earlier, she wasn't my teacher. She knew anything about college. Like, I don't think she went to college in general. But when she would clean those rooms that I was using, she would clean the boards, I would think, my gosh, like, she's cleaning my little math mess that I left there. But she does it because she knows how important it is. So sometimes I'll wipe it off and we'll have little smugs everywhere. She'll come in and wipe off with like, wow, board cleaner. And she'll be like, tomorrow will be ready for you. Don't dry and ready. I'm like, my goodness. So I got that clear that everyone that I was crossing paths with was someone that's here to help me.
So I do come from a household where my parents didn't attend college, so I can't really ask them any questions about college because they don't know. So I was really nervous about starting college because you just go in kind of like lost. You don't know what to do or where to go. So when I did come to campus and knowing that there was someone there that I could ask those questions to, it made me feel welcomed. It made me feel like somebody's there for me. And it helped me really realize I can do this, that I'm not on my own, like someone's there for me. So I actually started as a Blue Blazer at Amarillo College, and what that is it's like a scholarship program for students where they can come work as enrollment navigators, as tour guides. They help with recruitment and they do special events, and by doing that, it really made me become more social, and it really allowed me to help more students, make them feel welcomed on campus, and help them find anything that they needed. I hope that I can make the students feel welcomed like the greeter who helped me did. I want them to know that Amarillo College is there for them, that they care about them, and they want to help them in any way that they can.
I was afraid that because I have such a mental block with math that maybe some of the tutors would make me feel inadequate. And I came to find out that they have a tendency to make you feel more like a friend that's sitting down with you and saying, oh, okay, let's go over this. Or, oh yeah, I remember. And then they just talk to you. And it makes you feel included. It makes you feel safe. It makes you feel like, hey, you know what, maybe I can do this. It makes it like, I really want to come to school. I really want to learn. I really want to obtain my degree. It's not just me saying the words. Now I have the actions behind it.
They help me with utilities and rent. To me, I'm walking away and I'm thinking, they believe in me so much they're gonna pay my rent. And so you wanna go back home and study twice as hard. And then they helped me with my car, so I was super stressed out. And I wrecked it, and I was in clinicals. So for them to fix the car in that time of need was huge. It literally kept me in the program, and I was able to finish that semester still, with A's and B's. Food pantry, I've used that several times. That's been super helpful. They paid my rent again, went through divorce. It's hard to keep it together whenever you're going through something like that. I wasn't expecting to have to go get 2 jobs and pay rent and move out. They made it easy to ask. Everybody is loved on me like family. That's literally the atmosphere here. I mean, you have to do the work, but there's not a lot of other places that you can go where people are just gonna love on you and care about your education like you care about your education. And you give it.
Remember, I think I submitted my FAFSA wrong like 3 times because I didn't know, I didn't know what the taxes were. I never done any of this stuff. So I came up there and And I think the young lady literally sat like across from me, and she helped me fill out the whole FAFSA process. And that was one of the most incredible things that lady did. And she did the same thing for my sister, because when my sister came here, I literally took her down. She helped me get my FAFSA visit order. You need to come here, and she didn't mind helping her. So I was like, okay, perfect. Remember that everybody that you cross paths with at Amarillo College, their one job is to see you succeed. And I got that day one.
So there are several things that our students affirmed in their experiences related to our values. The one student talked about greeters. It's a way we live our values because we know students are afraid and fearful and worried that the week before school starts and the first week of class, our employees volunteer to take stations in parking lots to greet students and walk them where they want to go, or help them log on and figure out, because they might not even need to come into campus. Those things are really important. When you have a student reference a janitor as support for their education, that's when you know that the culture of caring has permeated every ounce and every inch of this college. And we put structures around emergency aid and structures around connecting students to resources, because we know from our Trellis data and our Hope Center data that our students are one crisis away from dropping out of school. And for us at Amarillo College, our students are an $88 crisis away from dropping out. Your data will be a little different when you look at your Trellis data, but you can know at what point your student's financial breaking point is and put structures to it. And you need to do that, not because it's just important to care and to love and to support our students, but because it's fundamentally going to affect your bottom line. So you can look in this, and Johnny can talk you through the investment.
You know, as board members, one of the things that you may be thinking is you know, how do you pay for this? It sounds to me like it's a lot of additional expense, and not real sure what that really means to the bottom line. And what I want to point out, and that's what Russell was alluding to, is, you know, we put $300,000 towards personnel expense for funding management of our resource center and so forth. And you may think, well, that's money maybe we don't have. But what that did is it actually kept 10% of an increase of students in school. And that made an additional revenue to our budget of $4.65 million. And so that's a 16-to-1 return on investment. And so I want us I want to encourage us to be looking at not just the bottom line and looking at the expense side of the equation, but by spending some money on helping students succeed and helping students stay in school as opposed to dropping out and maybe losing them forever. That's the one thing that we just can't neglect. I think you have to consider all of the factors of what it really can contribute to the overall community. And then we also show here we leveraged external resources of $275,000 that would save us in personnel costs through grants and utilizing outside legal source or whatever and mental health resources. So there are ways to do it that don't require you to just do everything on your own, but you can collaborate with your city. I mean, we actually did some things with our bus routes within the city, and they were able to work with us on being able to improve transportation. Those are just things that they're out there if you're innovative and creative in how you will go about trying to solve the barriers that are facing your students.
Johnny mentioned our transportation system. We partnered with the city, and now any Amarillo College student or employee can use the city transportation for free. Just show their ID. The reason the city did that is we could go to them and show economic analysis on what is going to change economically for our community if we can ensure that more students complete their degree. And we had trellis survey data that showed us that transportation was a big barrier. So the city's a partner in this work, just like the 60 nonprofits that have become a part of our No Excuses network.
We have actually a question that has come up, and again, please feel free to submit questions via the chat function. We're trying to type those responses as they come and also raise them for discussion. And so a question comes in: has the culture attracted students from outside of your usual service area that otherwise would have attended schools geographically closer to them?
So it's an interesting question, an important question. Do I think it's a competitive advantage? I certainly do. And we sell it as such. We're in a unique situation from a lot of you. We don't have, our service region has 34 ISDs in it and covers like 16 counties. So our competition is nowhere more than it is somewhere. We don't really compete with our other schools. We're trying to beat nowhere, because the majority of our high school graduates and the majority of our adults are not engaging in post-secondary success. And we know a culture of caring is a key component to getting them to choose AC over nowhere.
And then there was one other question, and I think Christy may have answered it as well, but you're referencing a couple different surveys. And so could you clarify, I guess, the two surveys and where potentially interested trustees and institutional leaders can get information on how to participate on those surveys?
Would love to. The first survey, the one that we showed, is a survey from the Hope Center at Temple University with Sarah Golder-Grab. She's conducted that survey with over 500,000 students and hundreds of institutions, and your institution may already be one of them. The other survey is done through the Trellis Foundation, and it's a financial health survey that gives you a lot of really detailed, rich data on your students, and if they're banked and if they understand their financial situation, if they know what resources are available to them, the level of their financial crisis in an emergency. And I think that every school in Texas participated in the initial Trellis survey, if not the subsequent one. And I would imagine that your institutional leaders have it.
Thank you. And I will raise the point, as a former Trellis employee, that survey is available to institutions across the country, not just Texas. So for our participants who are from other states, we can share information regarding how you can participate via email. And so thank you both for answering that question.
It's a really great survey and has informed a lot of what we're doing. Are there any other questions, Dr. Gonzalez, that you want us to dive into?
Well, none yet. As they come, I'll bring them up at a time where it's convenient.
So for us, the what's next is No Excuses 2025. 2 weeks ago, we had our Aspen Prize virtual site visit that ended at noon on Friday. And then at 1 o'clock, we had our General Assembly, where we closed and celebrated the end of our No Excuses 2020 plan and launched our No Excuses 2025 plan. They will keep the same values, the same purpose, the same core understanding. But the last 5 years were about transforming ourselves. I think the next 5 years will be about Amarillo College transforming our local economy with innovation and partnering with our existing industries to help them adapt to AI, robotics, and bioscience. We want every one of our students to graduate with a work-based learning experience in the next 5 years, and to have some basic technology understanding and language in coding, programming, or other technological applications. And then we're committed to being an anti-racist institution in a community that is as diverse as Amarillo is. So as we migrate through the next 5 years, we'll do it in the same way we navigated the last 5. We're going to do it based in love, taking President Austin with us in every interaction we have with our students, our community, and with you all. I'd love to engage you all in conversations about the details of the story or resources, or hear your own successes that we could all learn from as well.
Yes, and thank you. And please, again, submit questions in chat. I have a quick question. You both had alluded to external partners. What are some examples of external partners that colleges can look towards in terms of helping provide some of these services that may not be readily, at least currently, available on their institutions?
One of the most important external partnerships we have is with our local workforce board. They have an office inside our career center, and they place one of their employees inside our career center that's helping students connect to jobs while they're in school, and then connecting to long-term jobs when they graduate. So we're sharing through that process, we're sharing employment data available in our community, and that's a position that the only thing we're paying for is office space. They're paying for everything else. Other partnerships, you have partnerships in your community, and all of ours, like United Way. We have a partnership called Heal the City that really serves our indigent community with free health care. We've formulated a partnership with them where they're able to provide medication and see students, especially on the mental health side, that have more pressing issues than our mental health counselors can serve. But I would say we have laced together a network of 60 nonprofit service providers in our community, none of which have in their mission to eradicate poverty, all of which have their mission to serve one particular part of a poverty experience. And so the college is we created an advocacy and resource center. We hired 3 social workers, and those social workers are really designed to glue all of the resources that are available in our community together. And I will say this out loud: you want to solve the bulk of the problems in your community, get your college to hire a handful of social workers. They're magic.
I would add, Russell, to me, one of the most exciting things for us, in my opinion, is that we created a program that's called Thrive, which is free college at Amarillo College for all of our AISD students. And we collaborated externally with our Economic Development Corporation, and it makes perfect sense for them because our community needs an educated workforce. And we do a lot of training for companies that they are trying to recruit to come to Amarillo. And so we partnered with them along with our AISD, Amarillo Independent School District, as well as our Amarillo Area Foundation, again, because of the benefit of improving the education level of our workforce and what that will mean in lifting all of our community. And so that is another one that I thought of as we were talking, as you were talking, as well as the Career Center that AIS, our Independent School District, is creating. We're going to be doing some things collaboratively with them. And we have a wonderful relationship with West Texas A&M here in really working to create pathways that are very seamless, if you will. And you all may be doing several of those, but I share those because I think collaboration is so important within your community. And I feel like that we're doing a lot better job than we used to in that area. And so I'm excited about it. I know that it's created an excitement throughout our community about our college and what we're doing and how we're contributing to the benefit of our community.
Really important.
We have a couple more questions, and I know I want to be mindful of time. So speaking of career exploration, how much upfront career exploration and career profile assessments do you have students experience before deciding upon an area of study?
That's a really good question. One, for our non-traditional student, which is the 18-year-old that's graduating from high school, that student is getting career assessments before they leave the independent school district, and we're transcripting their career assessment so that we have access to it and our orientations and advisings up front. For all of our other students, there's 2 opportunities in the very beginning. When they come on campus, if they're looking for to enroll in the college, our first step is to get them to complete a career assessment. Sometimes they choose not to do that, so we've integrated career evaluation into our orientations, and then we're advising as many students as possible to take a first-year seminar class that requires career assessment, career exploration, and actually has students go into the career they're interested in and observe and interview people that are in that career and potentially job shadow them. And we're trying to get all of that within the first 8 weeks, because we know if they have clarity on what they want to do, we're much more likely to get them to graduate.
And then this is the last question, but it's a question that's growing in interest because of the pandemic and growing economic, insecurity that our students are facing. We talk about financial aid, in particular emergency aid, being a investment, a proactive tool in terms of ensuring student success. If we can keep students enrolled, we can keep them on a path towards success. How do you all have limits on how many times a student can receive emergency aid? Are there certain parameters in which aid can be used? And again, we appreciate that it's an investment, but I know that
it's a really important and great question. And it's one that when we first started this, we were asking ourselves, and that our community was asking. Initially, our emergency aid was funded with gifts from our AC Foundation. We've subsequently gotten a lot of philanthropic support and grant support for it. But at Amarillo College, we're trying to bust bureaucracy. So if someone says they need something, we get it to them. There are some limits, and if someone's coming back a second time, we still may solve that issue, but it triggers a deeper, more proactive intervention in a case management social work model. So one time, we'll just solve the emergency. A second time, we start getting much more intimately involved in what's happening in their lives. But I want to be clear, we went in thinking, oh my God, students are going to abuse this, they're going to take too much. You would be shocked at the data that we see. Students are coming in one time and they're usually not coming back because it's truly a singular emergency. Now, we do have students with more robust needs, and so we may not give them emergency aid, but we may connect them to resources that are available to them to solve deeper systemic issues. But the key is listen to your students, believe them, and commit to helping them. What we found for a lot of our students that have gotten emergency aid is we've been stunned by how many come back and pay it off. We haven't asked them to, they're just giving back. I can't tell you how many students come and get food out of our food pantry, but they were able to pick up an extra shift, so they bring some food back or they add to it. Our students are not takers. You may have some that are, but what we learned from our poverty training with Donna Beagle is that we can't set up systems and bureaucracies that are so worried about someone getting something they don't deserve that we penalize the 98.5% that are going to just be honored by it and do it right. So are we worried about the 1.5% that may be taking something more than they need? Yeah, and we have structures in place for that, but we're not drowning this in bureaucracy that keeps people from it.
And thank you for that. That was excellent remarks. And we're getting a lot of folks who are sharing their appreciation for the presentation, for both of you for sharing this insight. It's excellent. Clearly, the recognition as a Aspen finalist is very well deserved, and we'll be thinking of you as they make their selection. Hopefully, you all are the top 10 or the top community college across the country. Real quick, is there a deadline on the announcement or timeline on the announcement?
So they're doing visits throughout the fall. They'll do evaluation in the spring, and we won't know until May. And I'm really proud that there are 4 Texas schools in the top 10. That's unprecedented, and I know that someone from Texas is going to win the prize this year. They have to give it to us.
I certainly hope so, but a lot of schools are very well deserved, and again, a lot of us are greatly appreciative of the example that you all are leading by and the culture that you all have created at Amarillo College. Thank you again for everything, for the presentation. For the attendees, we will be sharing this recording as soon as it's uploaded. If you have any questions, please feel free to send those my way, and I'll potentially try to get answers for you or seek out responses. And again, we look forward to seeing you at the next presentation. Thank you all, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.